How do you get an athlete back from injury? How do you control central nervous system drain? How do you ensure the athlete gets to peak at the right time? Well, I'm going to show you in these snippets from my Coach Athlete Members videos. At the end of this video, I'll show you how you can get access to these videos. They are longer format. They go into a lot more detail, as you're going to see, about the areas that will improve you as an athlete and coach. So let's get started. In this one, we're going to consider peaking and tapering. We all want our athletes to do particularly well at certain times of the training year, whether that be national championships, regional championships, or even global championships. We need to be able to control central nervous system stress accumulation. Now, we can do that in training by, as I've said, increasing the intensity but not the volume. So we may, as I've indicated, do fewer sprints in the lead up to a competition. We may, in the day or two prior to a competition, only operate at 95% when running, doing build-up runs. What you do if one of your athletes gets injured. Now, I'm talking about minor injuries here. Things where the athlete is still able to walk comfortably, potentially could even jog after a day or so of sustaining the injury. I'm going to go through some of the protocols that I use in order to get athletes back to jumping and sprinting as quickly and as safely as possible, and also in terms of trying to minimize that particular injury occurring again. Now, I must say, obviously at the outset, that I'm not a qualified medical practitioner. So if you're in any doubt about an injury, go and see a physiotherapist or a specialist sports doctor. You've got to get onto that injury straight away in order to start the healing process. Now, on that subject matter, you have to keep the limb moving where possible. There's a strain in the hamstring. They will start walking and jogging around the track. Walk 30-40 meters, jog 10 meters. Walk 30-40 meters, jog 10 meters. Safely, slowly, not trying to pick the heel up that high. The next day we'll do the same, but we will extend the jogging period. We continue this in-place movement work and jogging and walking repetitions around the track for about 3 to 4, 5 days, and each session the movement's getting bigger and the distance jogged, for example, longer. Around about day 5 we'll start to put in some 40-meter faster jogging runs. So again, we're building up maybe at this stage to 50-60% speed, plenty of recovery between reps. What we don't want to do is create a fatigue in the muscle. So it's run 40-50 meters at 50-60%, take plenty of recovery, do it again, or do it over 20-30 meters. Is all about testing your way back into fitness. Doing so, they're promoting healing and getting the muscle fibers realigned so that they're less likely to pull and scar tissue develop. We have started to add in isometric bridging exercises, as well as more recent research indicates that isometric action can be very important in terms of staving off hamstring injuries. So it's possible to bring an athlete back to full fitness pretty quickly by following various protocols. Don't think that you don't need to do anything, that the athlete just needs to rest, because unless the injury is very, very significant, severe, then it's better to do something than nothing. We're going to look at some sports science, and we're going to try to apply that to practical coaching environments so that you can get a greater understanding of what's required, some of the factors, some of the do's, some of the don'ts when it comes to improving sprint speed. Often, athletes will go into the gym in an attempt to get more strength, to squat heavy, for example, to deadlift heavy. Now, research indicates that following that approach can lead to problems, insofar as there can be a lack of coordination in terms of sprinting, and in particular coordinating speed at high velocities when you come out of a heavy strength training phase. So we are affecting the architecture of the muscles and the central nervous system and the way it's dealing with all the factors that come together to generate maximum velocity. It's therefore important to make sure that your training blocks potentiate each other so that you don't get a lag from one block to the next. So using block periodization and undulating methods can avoid having these roadblocks between a period of strength training and then trying to channel that strength into actual speed. Across a very interesting quote from Derek Evely, one of the world's elite coaches, and he was talking about the use of training systems and periodization and linear methods and their deficiencies. And I think he said something along the lines of, you've spent months getting to peak performance in August, and then 3 or 4 weeks later you're detraining all of those gains and actually trying to get slower. If you go into the weights room and do a heavy period of training for 4 or 5 weeks and then expect to come out and transition that strength into speed, likelihood is that it's not going to happen. Developing speed from acceleration to maximum velocity requires different training. To improve acceleration, you need greater concentric strength, in particular over the initial steps. However, after that, and the athlete starting to reach maximum velocity and is at maximum velocity, then leg stiffness in particular becomes important, and plyometric training. To move forward, you need to transfer that velocity, that power in the horizontal direction. So to do that when sprinting, the hips become crucial. And there's a great deal of research that indicates that elite sprinters are better able to transfer that vertical force into horizontal force. If you want to find out more about that in particular, then do look for the work of Ken Clark, and he's carried out some specific research studies into thigh angular velocity, comparing how the elite sprinter, faster sprinters, create greater forces through the hip movement that translate into greater horizontal speed. A number of sprint coaches advocate that the heel does not come all the way up to the butt, to the bottom, and is pulled through at a lower angle to create a greater hammer blow on the track. In a way, doing lots and lots of hip movement work, in particular specific sprint drills throughout the entire training year, is going to generate the thigh angular momentum that I mentioned earlier. If you're really working on pulling that hip through 90% of the training year, for argument's sake, and I'm putting it very simply there, then of course you're going to develop that ability. I've said it in these videos and on the main channel that everything else being equal, you must focus on the hip muscles. We're going to specifically look at how you can plan your training to avoid physical and neural overload. Right, let's take a look at how to classify exercises in regard to their intensity. I'm going to focus on plyometric exercises. They can vary in their intensity quite substantially. However, that does not mean that a less intense exercise is of a lesser value than a more intense exercise. For example, skipping drills, which have a moderate to me intensity, have a great value in terms of perfecting, developing the foot strike movement, the contact, and of course they're going to develop reactiveness as well. But they're nowhere near as intense as run on bounds, leaping off of a low platform to perform 2 or more bounds and a jump into the pit, or 2 hops and a jump into the pit. You've got drop jumps and depth jumps as well. And basically the intensity of those generally varies in regard to the height from which you drop down from and the volume of those jumps. On screen now you'll see some of the exercises, plyometric exercises that we do, plus a note as to where I see them in terms of their intensity. And I hope that will help you formulate your plyometric training in regard to intensity and neural load. Well, I hope the information that I provided in these snippets of information from my Coach Athlete members videos will encourage you to take a look and potentially become a Coach Athlete member. Many of you have and are benefiting from the knowledge and information that's provided in those videos. To become a Coach Athlete member, head over to the channel's main page, click on the join button and go to Coach Athlete member. Do please subscribe to the main channel and turn on the bell notification icon so that you'll know when I upload new content. And good luck with your training and competitions.